What's up, friends? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Happy Saturday. Hope your weekend is treating you well. Today, we're going to be going over the Patriots scouting report. Had the opportunity to watch some tape from Patriots Ravens as well as Patriots Steelers. So going to be going over some of the tendencies from the Patriots offense, some of the tendencies from the Patriots defense, and more importantly, just, kind of some notes and some takeaways and some things that maybe Green Bay can exploit and kind of have to be aware of as well. So we'll go over those things in just a moment. Before we get there, we of course had our Friday injury report update and actual injury designations. Let's start with the Patriots first. Mac Jones is officially out for this game, which we're going to talk about more in just a moment. I think is a much bigger loss than I think people are making it out to be. I know he hasn't had the most stellar start to the season, but he's a pretty darn good quarterback. There's some things he definitely needs to work on, but to me, a very big loss and makes this game, so much more challenging for the New England Patriots. And then Lawrence Guy, former Green Bay Packer draft pick, who's gone on to have a fantastic career with the New England Patriots, really stout run defender. He will be out for this game as well. So a couple very big losses for the Patriots. Meanwhile, for the Packers, the only player who is listed as out for this game is Caleb Jones, who had an illness all week. So hopefully he's okay. That seems like a long time to be out with an illness. Haven't seen or heard anything that this was COVID related. So again, hopefully he's doing okay, but he will be out for this game. And Jair Alexander is officially listed as questionable. I think they should probably lean on the side of caution in this game. It is Brian Hoyer, and I know you can't take any NFL team lightly, but I do think there's an opportunity to maybe get out of this game without having Jair needing to play. I know the big injury news from the Dolphins game on Thursday night was clearly Tua, understandably so, but Xavier Howard, the Dolphins star corner, came out of that game because he tried to play with a groin injury. I don't know if he aggravated it or just couldn't get through the game, but he had to come out. And I guarantee you, even if it wasn't like a true aggravation, him playing on that and not having it be 100% healed probably is not doing him any favors either. This is one of those injuries that tends to linger. Clearly if he's good to go, he's good to go and you let him play. But if there's any question at all, I think you err on the side of caution and just let him sit another week and maybe reconsider next week when Green Bay heads to London. So we'll see if he ultimately ends up playing. He is officially listed as questionable. And again, the only player listed as out or with any other injury designation is Caleb Jones, who will be out. Now, what else does that mean? That means that David Bakhtiari officially had no injury designation. And I think we just need to pause for a moment. And I don't even know what the right response is. I don't know if it's a sigh of relief. I don't know if it's a jump of jubilation. I don't know what it is. But I think always the question was going to be, okay, he's going to come back at some point, hopefully. And once he does, how does he respond? Is he able to go the next week? Is he limited the next week? Is he going to have issues, practicing each week? Those were some of the questions. Well, he practiced 2 out of the 3 days this week, which is seemingly going to be the new normal for David Bakhtiari. And you get to the Friday injury report, and I just assumed, and thankfully wrongly, I assumed he was going to have a questionable designation. And I just kind of had a feeling like it might have been that way for a while. But to have no injury designation, which means he's going to play for a second straight week in his return to Lambeau Field. Remember, he didn't play there all last year. His one game was in Detroit. That is just a really cool moment that, I guarantee you, he's going to remember getting hopefully they do the offensive introductions this week and he gets to be, I just put him as the last person out of the tunnel because that would be more than amazing. But just the fact that he doesn't have an injury designation, that he's going to be able to play back-to-back weeks, I don't want that to go unnoticed because there was the question mark of was he going to be able to make it through his first game? Was he going to be able to make it to his second game? And now that he's playing his second straight game, we'll see what the snap counts are. Just because he's back and not on the injury report with any designation doesn't mean that he's going to play the full game. But overall, I think this is just massive, really exciting news. And I didn't want to gloss over it and just not say anything or not go over it because it should be noted that he is back and now for the second straight week. And hopefully that is great news for him moving forward. And we can just all put this David Bakhtiari injury issue behind us. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm sure this is something that he's going to have to overcome through the course of the season. And we'll see how fatigue sets in with that knee. And if he starts getting fluid in that knee again, those are all obstacles that he's going to have to overcome. But the first one was playing, and then the second one is, can you play in back-to-back weeks? He's now passed both of those, and it's just huge news for the Packers. And of course, Bakhtiari himself and Packer fans who are, I guarantee, extremely excited that he's going to be back playing for a second week. All right, let's get into our scouting report for this week. So let's start with this Patriots offense. And the first thing that stood out to me is this Patriots offensive line. And you can just tell this is a very well-coached group. And I know the cliche thing with a Bill Belichick coached team is to be like, well, they're just super well-coached. And like that's going to be a talking point. And to the point where like I almost didn't want to talk about it because it's just how you're facing Bill Belichick. But like you can just tell offensively, defensively, special teams, this is a extremely well-coached team that has a great attention to detail, that is, are doing the right things on the football field. I don't think it's an overly talented New England Patriots team. And specifically without their starting quarterback, I don't think this team, when you like measure them up to the rest of the 32 teams, they're probably in the bottom third talent-wise. But the coaching goes such a long way in how they play the game the right way. And I think that's quite frankly going to be one of the biggest challenges this week, is just sort of matching the technique and the intensity. And Green Bay is too. Don't sell Green Bay and Matt LaFleur short either. This is a very well-coached Packers team. I think that's kind of what makes this matchup fun, even with Mac Jones out. Is this really, these are two really dominant franchises over the last 3 decades. And yes, things are not the same since Tom Brady left, and it's been a little bit of a struggle in New England. It doesn't change the fact that these two are, franchise powerhouses with really great team cultures that play the game the right way. And I think that's what makes this matchup fun. But specifically on the offensive line, extremely well-coached group, great pad level, work as a unit, work as a team. You can see them very much on the same page. And then the other thing that stands out with their offensive line, they have got some big, meaty men doing some big, meaty men things on this offensive line. You've got Trent Brown, 6'8", 370. You've got Michael Onwenu, 6'3", 350. 6'3" only, and he's 350 pounds. And then Isaiah Wynn is the small one at 6'3", 310. And now David Andrews, Cole Strange are a little bit smaller than that. But they have some absolute powerhouses along this offensive line, and they know how to use it. They are stout at the point of attack. They will beat you with double teams and take these maulers and come right at you. And it's going to be very important that Green Bay holds up at the point of attack against this well-coached, very stout offensive line. Now, I don't think anyone on this offensive line is great, but collectively they're well coached. They're a good overall unit. There's not an exact perfect weak point that you can attack. I'll go over the one that I think you may have an opportunity in just a moment. But overall, I think just matching their coaching and their intensity and their technique and their physicality up front is going to be one of the bigger challenges. And we know that New England's going to want to run the football in this game, take the pressure off of Brian Hoyer and company. If they can do that, I think if New England can do that, if they can run the ball, it's going to make things very challenging for Green Bay. But if Green Bay can match the intensity and win their battles up front, specifically their one-on-ones, making things difficult for the Patriots running backs, that is going to give Green Bay a massive, massive advantage in this game. So offensive line and their, just their overall technique, talent, and size, I think is going to be a challenge for Green Bay to overcome. The matchup I think that Green Bay can win is Kenny Clark versus David Andrews. And Cole Strange plays a part in this as well, their first-round pick, who I think is still sort of learning the ropes a little bit. I think Kenny Clark versus Cole Strange has an opportunity. David Andrews is a little bit smaller, a little bit undersized, plays, again, with very sound technique and good leverage, but this is a guy that can get worked over from time to time. And I think if you can get some one-on-one matchups, Kenny Clark versus David Andrews, Kenny Clark versus Cole Strange, I think that's where Green Bay is going to have the opportunity to win. And we saw some 5-man rushes from Green Bay, specifically against Tampa. We saw it a little bit in some of the other games as well, but specifically against Tampa, to dictate those one-on-one matchups. Where can you line up Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary to get them over David Andrews specifically and Cole Strange? I think those are where your real opportunities are to win in this game. I do think New England's offensive line is going to hold up well. When New England's offensive line looks good, they can look really good. But because they don't have any real stars on the team, there's times that they're going to get beat and things start to crumble and fall apart. And the thing that I'll mention here too is whether it's with a five-man rush so that you can dictate the one-on-ones, or whether it's bringing some blitzes. I have seen New England struggle a little bit with some blitzes. We saw a corner blitz from the Ravens that worked for them. And just New England hasn't been the best at sort of picking up some of those disguises and some of those exotic blitzes. So Joe Barry has not done basically any of that. He's brought Quay Walker on a couple occasions, but almost no blitzing from Joe Barry. I think this is an opportunity in this game to be a bit more aggressive. It's always the challenge of like, all right, you've got Brian Hoyer. So do you want to attack him and make him get rid of the ball and force him into mistakes? Or do you want to challenge him and be like, listen, there's no way Brian Hoyer is going 80 yards over and over and over. We can play and keep everything in front of us. And like, there's just no way that if we play sound defense and tackle everything ahead of us, you're not getting to, 17 to 20 points. And our offense can easily outbeat that. So there's going to be a little bit of a challenge to figure out, all right, do we want to play vanilla and let our guys do the heavy lifting and just don't think Brian Hoyer can beat us? Or do we want to be a little bit more risky, knowing that maybe they could hit a shot play, which could give them some point production and some easier points, but also knowing that we could get some turnovers and maybe just completely disrupt the Patriots offense that way. I think they're going to play a lot of vanilla and a lot of just simple stuff and let their players do the heavy lifting. But I do think we could have the opportunity to see a little bit more exotic blitzes and maybe get some pressure on Brian Hoyer that way. Another player that really stood out offensively in this game, specifically the Ravens game, and I'll just talk about that, was Devontae Parker. I liked Devontae Parker a lot coming out of college, and then he went to Miami and didn't really do a whole heck of a lot. And then he got traded for basically nothing this offseason. And I know some people were like, Green Bay should have traded. Like, why didn't they look at Devontae Parker? And I'm like, hey, go watch his tape in Miami. It's fine, but there's nothing there. It's nothing special. You're not going to change your offense by trading for him. Holy crap. This last game against Baltimore, he looked like he was back in his college days. He looked like a really, really impressive number one wide receiver. And I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase. I'm not saying he's like a top tier wide receiver, but like he looked really good. He looked like a player that was going to consistently challenge you at the catch point. He was gaining separation. He was running better routes. This is a new Devontae Parker in New England, and that is definitely a player that you need to keep track of. We've seen Green Bay, specifically Justin Jefferson and the Vikings, lose track of the one player that you can't let beat you. This is the player that you can't let beat you. I think Green Bay can control the running game. It's Brian Hoyer at quarterback. There's not really any other stars at wide receiver that you're going to worry about. You can't let Devontae Parker get going. He got going against the Ravens, and they gave the Ravens a run for their money, and Parker was a huge part of that. So be wary of Devontae Parker and make sure that he is not the guy that beats you. I think Rasul Douglas has a really good chance, depending on what happens with Jair, but I think Rasul Douglas is a really good matchup with Devontae Parker. And maybe you give Stokes a shot, maybe you just play your guys on their sides, but just make sure you're aware of him and don't let him have his Justin Jefferson game in this game and let him get going early. One of the things I noticed very often from the Patriots offense, they love crossing routes. They love short crossing routes. They love intermediate crossing routes. They love deep crossing routes. And what has given Green Bay some trouble this year? Crossing routes. Now, primarily that was Minnesota and Justin Jefferson. So again, grain of salt, but that is something that I guarantee you Bill Belichick and this Patriots offense is going to be attacking with, is some of those crossing routes. Green Bay's been playing a lot of zone defense, and that takes a lot of communication and a lot of players being on the same page. And Bill Belichick loves attacking those little gaps in communication where maybe there can be a potential breakdown. I guarantee you he's noted on a couple occasions. There was a play against Tampa this last game on the very final drive before all of the potential delay of game and all of that stuff. There was a play where Green Bay got lost in his own coverage, and the tight end, Cameron Brate, broke wide open down the field. And Brady didn't see him. If Brady sees him, it's an easy touchdown. And it would have been a huge play. And obviously Tampa went down and scored a touchdown anyway, but there would have been more time left on the clock, and who knows what happens after that. But it was a breakdown in communication. It was a breakdown in assignment. We've seen that in 3 games in some capacity from Green Bay. And this is exactly what New England likes to attack. So Green Bay is going to have to be extremely sound in the secondary and making sure they know their rules, know their principles, and that they are communicating the crap out of everything, or this Patriots offense will attack exactly that weakness and find it over and over again. So watch for those crossing routes and watch for them to attack Green Bay's communication and potential communication breakdowns in the secondary. Their running backs love to bounce out to the outside, specifically Ramondre Stevenson. Both of these guys are very, very slippery. So you have to kind of be aware of them. You've got to stick the edge. You've got to make sure that you don't let it up even after the play's going for a little bit, because they will try to bounce outside and they will be successful if you allow them to be. I talked about Mac Jones being a big loss. Mac Jones is an interesting point in his career right now. He is a bit too, he needs to be a little bit more decisive. And I guess the bigger thing here is that like he's becoming predictable, or like he's only looking where the play is designed to go, and he's going there and sort of predetermining is I guess the word I'm looking for, where he wants to go with the football. On the plays where he's not predetermining where to go with the football and making some pretty bad mistakes, quite frankly, he actually looks really good. I love his accuracy. I love his throwing motion. I think he's getting a much more technically sound as a quarterback. I like where he's headed. He needs to clean up some of the mistakes, which has been a big issue these last 2 weeks for him. But this is a major loss. Going from Mac Jones, who has legitimate arm talent, who can attack all over the field, who has good accuracy, and yes, is mistake prone so far. But going to Brian Hoyer, who just doesn't have those things and also is a little bit mistake prone, it's just a massive downgrade for New England and makes this a totally, totally different game. And then last but not least, I think, from an offensive standpoint, if Green Bay can make New England's offense one-dimensional, specifically making Brian Hoyer have to throw the football, if Green Bay can get some point production early like they did against Tampa, Brian Hoyer's not throwing them back in this game. It is paramount to New England that they stay in run-pass options, meaning that they can run or pass on any given play. If it's just pass, Green Bay's going to have an absolute field day, and they're going to attack the crap out of Brian Hoyer. So these wide receivers are okay. Aguilar's okay. Like I said, Devontae Parker I was impressed with, but they will struggle to gain separation, and Green Bay's defensive backfield's been pretty darn good so far. So again, if you can make them one-dimensional and Green Bay knows it's going to be a pass, Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark and Preston Smith can tee off, then it's going to be a very long day for New England. So stop their running game and you have a massive opportunity for success. Defensively, I really liked what I saw out of Matt Judon and Deatrick Wise. They had 4 sacks combined this past week against the Ravens. Those guys set an edge. They are physical. They are violent. They're not maybe the 2 most talented edge rushers in the world, but man, they can make you pay if you let them. So it's going to be very important that Elton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari, Yash Nyman, if he gets playing time, really have their A game going, because those are really 2 of the players that have the ability, 2 of the only players that New England has that has the ability to disrupt the game and really be kind of game wreckers and playmakers. So control those 2 and your odds of winning go way, way up, because those 2 can really wreck a game if you let them. I do think that New England's going to be very grateful not to see Lamar Jackson, and I don't think they're exactly excited to see Aaron Rodgers, but man, when you're a defense that's so sound technically and know exactly what to do, having to add that extra element of being aware of Lamar Jackson's running ability just puts a wrench into everything. So it was like they had everything done that they were supposed to and attack the play the right way. And then Lamar would just do his cheat code thing where he's like, all right, you guys did everything perfectly on this play. I'm still going to run around and just make positive yards on the play. So I guarantee you New England's defense is just very happy that Aaron Rodgers doesn't run a 4.3 40. I'll just put it that way. They do cover the scramble drill incredibly well. So even if Aaron Rodgers is able to buy time, roll out, get to his right, and do his Aaron Rodgers thing, although it's not as often anymore as it used to be, the Patriots do a very good job of covering wide receivers throughout the entirety of the play. And the other thing that you'll note, though, is that they will allow opportunities for that to happen. I know it was Lamar Jackson, but even in the week before against Trubisky, there's a lot of times that rush doesn't get home right away, and the quarterback has the opportunity to buy time and roll out and kind of scramble around a little bit to buy some extra time and make some plays. You will see that happen, but their secondary does a great job of still shutting things down and just really staying sound in their coverage in the backfield. Speaking of sound coverage, from a zone coverage standpoint, they really, really are sound in their principles, and it's exactly what you would expect from a Bill Belichick coach team, but they have no issues whatsoever in making those communications, making those adjustments, and really doing, being exactly where they're supposed to be on a play. So that makes things clearly much more difficult for these Packers wide receivers. Packers are going to have to know their blitz assignments. Bill Belichick will throw the kitchen sink at you, so you have to be ready for everything. He will throw a few blitzes that maybe you haven't seen before, so going to be paramount for Green Bay that they are very attuned with their blitz assignments and making sure they know who they're supposed to pick up, and then of course actually picking up those blitzes and being sound in pass pro. The running backs and tight ends will certainly be a part of that as well. Would love to see Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs get in some bunch sets. I think this Patriots defense will allow some separation, and I think if you can get Doubs or Watson some separation in those situations, I think we could see some maybe explosive playmaking from two of their faster wide receivers in this game. I would also like to see this be more of an Aaron Jones driven game than an A.J. Dillon driven game. I think week by week there's going to be different teams that match up differently. Some of them are going to be more advantageous for Aaron Jones. Some are going to be more advantageous for A.J. Dillon. Personally, I think this is very much a Aaron Jones game. I think you can attack these inside linebackers with speed. I think we saw the Ravens and Justice Hill have some opportunities to kind of get some cutbacks and kind of make some explosive plays. If Justice Hill was able to do that, no offense to Justice Hill, but if he can, I think Aaron Jones has the ability to be even better. So I would be really looking to feed Aaron Jones in this game. Their corners will absolutely press and be physical if you let them. Green Bay struggled with that in the second half against Tampa last week, so they're going to have a better plan on how to attack physical coverage from the Patriots. As mentioned earlier, Lawrence Guy is going to be out in this game. I think this is a very big loss for them that hasn't really been touched on so much. He is a very good and sound run defender. And like I say, if you let him disrupt plays and if you let him eat up your double teams, it's going to free up those linebackers, who I'm not a huge fan of, but it makes their job easier. Without Lawrence Guy, you're going to be able to get to the second level, I think, and maybe pick off their linebackers and hopefully get some explosive plays in the run game. And then the last note here is keep an eye on Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle, I think second round pick from last season, if I remember correctly, out of Alabama. He's starting to put things together. He was super talented coming out of college, but hadn't really put things together yet. He's getting there. The light bulb's going off. I think it may take until the end of the season, maybe even next year, but he's going to be a really good football player. And he has the moment, or he has the ability at any moment to turn it on and have the light bulb go off and start making disruptive plays. When that happens, this defense becomes much more dangerous for the Patriots. So you're going to want to make sure that he doesn't get going, and those interior players, the Royce Newmans, the Josh Myers, they can't have those lapses, because Barmore will make you pay just because he's so freaking gifted athletically. All right, those are my notes for this game. I will have a full preview and my keys and matchups to watch on tomorrow's show, so make sure to check that out. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure to do that. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.